Welcome back. We are working in zone 3 and on page 11, these are the blocks that we are making. We are making zinnia. So if you look down here, zinnia is on page 46 and we'll be making two of these blocks for the pattern, but we are working in zone 3. So this is the one we are making. And I already pulled out all of my pieces for the block. So here they are. All right, so we have our leaves. We'll start on step 2, cutting the curves. So let's pull those pieces out that I need. So I need my 3 2 3/4 by 4 twist D blocks. So these are for fillers later, so let's set those aside. So I need these here. 7 2 1/4 by 4, so those. Twisty petal 2. Again, we're going to set these aside. Those are fillers a little bit later. We have our 3 2 3/4 by 4. Our 7 2 1/4 by 4, and then we have our 2 4x4s for the leaves, and then for the background we have 2 4x4s, so right here, and 8 2 3/4 by 4. These we will use later when we assemble the zinnia block. And then we have our stem. We'll set that aside for later. And we are ready to cut the curves. So for the zinnia block, you can see we have orange wording, which means we are using the orange lines on the Wonder Curve ruler. So let's go ahead and start with petal 1. We're cutting 3 2 3/4 by 4 twist D. And this is a really important little note here. It says cut RSU, cut right side up. So all 3 pieces we need to lay right side up before we cut. So let's check, make sure they're all right side up. Flip that one over. Stack them on top of each other. And remember that all of the instructions on how to cut these different shapes are over on page 6 towards the beginning of the book. But what we need to do is line up those dashed orange lines right on top of my fabric, just like that. And I have 3 right side up. We're going to cut in our curve cutout. Set that aside. You are not using these, so you don't want to get mixed up. And these are the 3 pieces that we need. Now we need 7 twist C, and these are the 2 1/4 by 4, and we cut them RSD, so right side down. I'm going to just double check. Looks like I have to make them all facing down. And I'm going to just separate them into a stack of 4 and a stack of 3. Okay. And we'll go ahead and cut. Placing the ruler on top with the dashed orange lines on top of my stack of fabric. Cut in my curve cutout. Discard, and then we'll do the same for those. Again, dashed orange lines right on top of my fabric. Cut in my curve cutout, and there I have those. Okay, and moving on to petal 2, the 3 2 3/4 by 4, we are cutting right side down. So let's go ahead and face those down. Place the ruler on top dashed orange lines. Discard those. We don't need those, but we do need these. Okay. And then we need to cut 7 2 1/4 by 4, and these are right side up. So we'll go ahead and split those again. So we'll do like 2 stacks, 4 in one stack and 3 in the other. And these are right side up. Place the ruler on top, dashed orange lines, just like that. So we are discarding this, keeping these. Again, place the ruler on top, dashed orange lines, sit right on my fabric. Cut in my curve cutout. Discard, keep. All right, so you can see we've got those 4 cuts. Now we need to cut our leaves, and this is the shimmer A and B. So we're going to place the ruler on top, and the solid orange lines sit right on top of my two squares, 4x4s. This doesn't matter if they're up or down. So we'll go ahead and cut. And we are keeping both. So 2 of these and 2 of those. Okay, now we're on to a background shimmer A and B. So that's the 2 4x4s. Line up underneath the solid orange V. And then we're going to cut in the curve cutout. We're keeping both of those as well. And then we need 8 twist D. So these are the 2 3/4 by 4. And it says that we need 4 cut right side up and 4 cut right side down. So let's go ahead and separate this into 2 stacks, 4 up and 4 down. And so these are down, these are up. Place the ruler on top. Dashed orange lines sit on my fabric, just like that. We are discarding these pieces and keeping these. And then do the same for this stack. These are my right side up. Discard, keep. Okay, it looks like we are ready to sew. So moving on to step 3, we're going to go ahead and lay out all of our pieces like it shows here in the pattern. All right, so we need let's see here. We need two of our leaf pieces, and then 2 background, and then leaves. And we can move this over. Make sure we have enough room here. And then we have 2 petal pieces. So petal 2, we need 2 of these. And then 3. We need 3, not 2. So 3 of those. and they will get sewed to 3 petal 1 pieces, just like that. And then we have 4, so the remaining 4 will be sewed to 4 of the background D pieces. And then we have petal 1, we have 3 of these that get sewed to those. And then 4 background and 4 of those. So there is my sets that I need to sew together. Let's kind of separate them so you can see. All right, let's go to the sewing machine and sew. Okay, so when we're sewing our pieces together, I'm just going to sew a group at a time, a set at a time. And we're going to lay out your block, flip this over, convex on top, concave on the bottom, and that's going to go down about 1/4 inch. Just like that. And we're going to chain piece. Try not to pull and stretch as I sew. All right, and then I'm grabbing my next set. The same sew, just different fabrics. When you get to the end, you see how that like dives out. You really got to like force those together, and then I just pinch them with my finger and sew off the edge. All right, we'll grab our next grouping. So this is a little bit different. We have lay it out, flip this over, convex on top, concave on the bottom, and we're starting down 1/4 inch. When you get to the end, it's skinnier, so again, you just pinch those fabrics together and sew right off the edge. That. 2 more. Last one. Set, different fabrics, but the same sewing technique. We flip that over, convex on top, concave on the bottom, and that top piece goes down 1/4 inch, or the bottom is extended. Sews for this one. And by this stage, if you are on zone 3, I'm guessing you're getting pretty good at sewing curves, because it's all the same curve, all the same pieces. You've sewed these before, and then it's just fun. All right, so now let's sew So these two together, we've got our, shimmer A and B, flip that over, convex on top, concave on the bottom. And then we're going to go down 1/4 inch. Two. Same sew, convex on top, concave on the bottom, go down 1/4 inch. And there's all my pieces, chain piecing, and now we can go press. And there's all my pieces, chain piecing, and now we can go press. Okay, time to press our blocks. We're going to press all the blocks towards the D piece. I'm going to go ahead and press from the back first. This is a little bit easier. Give it a good press on top. Again, we're pressing towards D or towards your, or away from the background. Okay, and then let's press our leaf blocks. So we're going to press towards, let me think, actually, we can press towards the focus for this one. The pattern does say, what's the pattern say? Press seam towards focus fabric or away from background. So yes, so we are pressing towards our focus. Towards focus. All right, so now it's time to square all these blocks up. Okay, it is time to square up our blocks. You should have 4 piles, and I'm actually on step 5. So if you just stack your blocks up into these 4 different piles, and then you have your AB blocks right here. So we're gonna go ahead and square up our AB blocks first, and then we will square up our these blocks here, our CD blocks. All right, and I'm gonna just square up one of each to show you how to square them up, and then you can square all of yours up along with me. So on this block here, we are going to square this up to a 3 by 3. And on the Wonder Curve ruler, you have orange dots, and those are going to sit on my curved seam right here and right there. And we're going to square this up to a 3-inch block. So I'm going to trim 2 sides. Oops. My ruler shifted a little bit on me because I'm in a very weird angle. Okay, and then rotate your block around, line up those trimmed up edges on your 3-inch lines on your ruler, and then trim the other 2 sides. And so there's one block. Do the same for this. Again, you're going to line up the, let's rotate that just like it shows in the picture. The orange dots on your curved seam. So right here and right there. We're going to trim up 2 sides. Rotate, line up those trimmed up edges on your 3-inch lines and trim the other 2 sides. Okay, now let's trim up our CD blocks. We will start with this one, and these get trimmed up to a 1 3/4 by 3. So we're going to place our Wonder Curve ruler on top of the block, and the seam at the top of the block needs to sit 1.5 inches in underneath the 1.5 inch mark. And then the orange dot down here will sit on my curved seam. So 1.5 inches is where that seam sits at the top, and then the orange dot on the curved seam down here. And we're going to trim 2 sides. Rotate, line up trimmed up edges on 1 3/4 and 3 inches, and trim the other 2 sides. All right, there we go. Let's do that again. The seam up here sits 1.5 inches in, and the seam, the curved seam right down here, sits underneath my orange dot. Trim and trim. Rotate your block. Now line up those trimmed up edges at the 1 3/4 and 3 inches, and trim whatever's left. And there you go. Okay, now let's trim up the these ones here, and same method, it's just a little bit reversed. So the seam on this side will sit 1.5 inches underneath the 1.5 inch mark on the ruler down, and then the orange dot will sit on my curved seam over here. So we're going to trim 2 sides. And then rotate and line up trimmed up edges on the 3 inch and the 1 3/4 right here. So 3 inch, 1 3/4, trim up the other 2 sides. Just like that. And then one more block. The seam up here again will sit underneath the 1.5 inch mark. So measure down 1.5 inches. And then the orange dot will sit right on my curved seam over here. So orange dot on the curved seam there. And that seam sits 1.5 inches down underneath my 1.5 inch mark. So we're going to trim those 2 sides. Rotate, and now line up those trimmed up edges underneath the 3 and the 1 3/4, and then trim and trim. And there you go. So square up all of your blocks, and then we will start assembling the flower. Okay, so we are on step 8, and at this stage, you need to lay out all of your pieces, just like it shows in this picture. So let me go ahead and show you. Here we go. So I laid all my blocks out, my squared up blocks, and then I sewed my rows together. And again, I pressed my seams open. Really double check your 1/4 inch seam that it's right on, so your block doesn't grow or shrink. And now we're going to sew these rows together. All right, so there's my top of my zinnia sewed together. Now we need to assemble the bottom part. And so we're going to take our stem, and we'll go ahead and open that up. And then we're going to take our filler pieces, and we're going to put the 1 3/4 by 4. We'll go here. Leaf AB, no, leaf AB there. And then same with this and there. And 3x4s go here. And then the 1.5 by 5.5 will go there. So in the book, in your pattern on step 9, it tells you to sew these 3 together first. So I'll sew these 2. I'll sew this onto that unit, and then we can sew these together. And then we can sew it to the stem. Okay, so now I am ready to sew these 3 together. Sew those 3 together, and then I can sew them to my stem. All right, the bottom part of my zinnia is pieced together. Let me show you the back. So I did press my seams open, but the stem center, I pressed my seams towards the stem. And that way that stem pops out nicely. And now we can sew these together. Okay, well there is my zinnia block. Very, very fun block. Love the, I love how these blocks come together and create sort of the shadowing effect on that. So this should be measure at 8 by 18, and this is zinnia block for zone 3.